If you know anything about me, you know I love me a good stinker. Not like that, I don't like huffing farts. I'm talking about a stinker in movie form. Especially when that bad movie is a horror movie, because there's just something about seeing a terrible, scary movie that releases dopamine in my brain and makes it light up like a Christmas tree. And oh boy, did I find the stinkiest horror movie of all. I feel like Luffy after he just found the One Piece, or a kid who just accidentally touched his first booby all over again. I'm ecstatic. And the way I found this was I was just randomly searching through Reddit and various other websites trying to get scary movie recommendations because I'm quite into Halloween and we're approaching spoopy season, so I had to get a good list going so I could watch some scary movies during October. And while I was doing this, perusing, finding some good recommendations, this one movie caught my attention because I'd seen that poster before, and it was called One Missed Call. And as soon as I seen this poster for the movie, it took me back to the year 2008 when I was about 7, 8 years old, and this poster was hanging up at my local theater because this thing used to scare me to death. It scared me more than my mom chasing me with a belt. It was just like I was coming face to face with the boogeyman and he was going to hop out of the poster and eat me. Because that's an objectively scary movie poster. Even now, I can admit that's a pretty freaky, it's a good movie poster. If I met the marketing team that made that, I'd give them a good old butt pat and say, "Good game, champ. You did good." But anyways, as soon as I had that deja vu moment about this movie, I knew I had to watch it. I had to prove to my 8-year-old self that I'm a big boy now. I don't wet the bed anymore, and I don't even have to check my closet for monsters before I go to sleep. That's how much of a man I am. I even have a couple chest hairs. You know, you can't really see them on the camera, but they're there. There's a couple. And one more thing before we hop into this, if you're wondering about my credibility, how am I allowed to call this the worst movie ever? I've seen my fair share of bad horror movies. My mom got me this as a stocking stuffer when I was about 13 and told her I was into scary movies. She got this from the bargain bin at Walmart. God bless her soul for it too, because these movies are all so horrible that they're actually pretty enjoyable to watch. Unlike One Missed Call. One Missed Call is like that fart that turns out to be a poop. It just kind of ruins the mood. So now I'm going to give you a brief summary of the movie and then just talk about some points that really stick out as stinky moments. So if you do plan on watching this movie, go ahead and click off. I don't know why you would want to. God bless your soul if you do. But this is your warning now. We're going to talk about some spoilers. Okay, so One Missed Call. As the title would lead you to believe, this movie pertains to phone calls. It's pretty much like if The Ring and Final Destination had a unwanted love child that nobody cares about. That's pretty much what this movie is. Because it revolves around a ghost that is haunting a phone, or maybe they're like haunting the telephone lines, something like that. They're in telephones. The ghost is in a telephone. And the way the ghost works, it's kind of hard to explain, honestly. It's a bit hard to wrap your mind around as well. It'll take one person's phone that it has already killed and then call a contact in that phone, but it'll be a voicemail from the future. So today's September 25th at 11:56 p.m. So instead of it saying that when you get the phone call, it would say September 27th at 8 a.m. And that would be when the voicemail is from. So you'd pick up the phone, you'd be like, hello, or not hello, it'd be a voicemail. So you'd play the voicemail, and it would be your voice on the other line, and it'd be a little snippet, a clip of the moment you die. So you'll hear your final words before you're dead. So now you see where the Ring aspects come into this, because once you get the phone call, you're doomed to die. There's no way to skirt around it. You're going to die. And then the Final Destination aspects come in the form of you receiving hints of how you're going to die. It won't just flop its cock on the table and tell you you're going to get squished by a piano that falls from the sky, or something silly like that. It'll beat around the bush, and like you'll see a bunch of piano ads everywhere, or a piano will zoom by on the back of a truck. And also, you see these really weird looking people everywhere right before you die. Like, it's very similar to the movie poster, how they look. They're like this gray-skinned, black holes for Oz people that have these really freakishly weird grins on their faces. And one time this even happens with a mother and a child situation, and the child is also one of these people. That sounds really racist. It's one of the humanoid creatures. And one more thing pertaining to when the people get killed is that they'll always have this little hard candy in their mouth that falls out, or they either pluck it out after they die when they're investigating the crime scene. And at first I thought this was a marble, but it is stated in the movie to be a hard candy. So that's just worth bringing up. It's like the calling card of the ghost, even though the ghost is pretty much God because it can dictate the future, dictate when you're going to die. But for some reason it wants to have a calling card to let you know that it's the one that did it. And I guess it has an ego. So that's pretty much the best summary I can give you. It's not like the movie explains it a whole lot better. It probably does compared to me. But to sum it up real quick again, phone is haunted. Phone calls other phone. You receive phone call from the future. It's a voicemail of you the moment you die. Then you can't avoid your death. The dates and the time that is on the phone is when you will die. Once you die, you'll have this little hard candy that just pops up in your mouth, proving that the phone ghost was the one that killed you. So now, let's just talk about some bits and pieces of this movie that I found really goofy. So the movie starts off with a cold open so it can add a body to the kill count and kind of establish how things work a little bit. And it starts off with this lady who is at a beautiful house. Her house is absolutely magnificent. Just had to bring that up. And she's in her backyard sitting across from her koi pond, just doing some homework. She's on the phone with a friend talking about, blah blah this and blah blah that. I'll see you later, see you tomorrow at school. She hangs up, looks over and sees her cat is sitting on the rock beside the koi pond, and she's like, I guess that's weird that my cat's over there. So she looks away and then looks back and the cat's gone. So I guess that's a reason for concern, because she gets up and goes to investigate her cat leaving the rock. And then something in the water catches her attention when she kneels down, and she looks into it, and I guess she hears something or sees something, so she leans in a bit further, and then a hand jumps up and grabs her in the face and pulls her down like she's Jason from Five Nights at Freddy's. Jason from, what is the Friday the 13th? It slipped my mind. So she gets dragged down to the bottom of her koi pond where she's destined to become a bloated corpse, and then it cuts over to her cat. And I'm like, oh boy, I know where this is going. Yes, the hand also jumps up and grabs the cat and yanks it down into the water. And it was at that point that I said, yeah, this movie sucks. I hate this movie already. They killed a cat only like 3 minutes into the movie. This is crazy. That's one thing that's immediately going to make me hate your movie, is if you kill an animal immediately, just straight off the bat, for no reason at all. Like the cat didn't receive the phone call. Why did the cat have to die? They just killed the cat for no reason. He was a bystander. He was innocent. Anyways, the camera pans over to the table where she was sitting at, where her phone is at, and then the phone begins to dial another number. And then the cycle continues. It just sets up the story, and, it gets everything on the track to, just rack up the bodies. So now, since the ghost has killed the beautiful girl with a beautiful home, and then called another person on her contacts and set the whole movie into motion, we meet these characters that are ultimately going to be kills for the kill count, and I hate all of them. I don't enjoy a single character in this movie. Every time they converse with each other, it's like I'm just watching a cutscene in GTA, or just watching, pedestrians in GTA have a conversation. It's just straight up NPC behavior. It's so unbearable to watch. And most of the time when they're having conversations, there'll just be these blank moments where they're just dead staring into the cameras, saying nothing. It'll be like, oh, lovely weather we're having today. Why, yes, it is lovely weather we're having today. Just some real silly stuff like that. I don't understand why that has to be there, but it just really takes me out of the movie. Because I'm thinking about why they're not cutting, and why they're just staring into the camera, and why they're all talking so robotically like Mark Zuckerberg. But anyways, looking past all that, one more broad detail I want to nitpick on is that all the death scenes are totally avoidable. None of them had to happen in the first place. The characters just make the worst, most dumb decisions in the moment that lead to their death. And I know that's a trope, and it happens in every horror movie. That's why it's a cliche. The characters just make the worst, most horrible decisions in the moment that lead up to their death. I don't know why they still do that. It's the worst thing you could do for a horror movie. But still, I know it happens all the time. I'm very aware. But these characters seem extra stupid for whatever reason. It's almost like they're Andrew Tate fans or something, and that just really got under my skin. I think the reason it made me so mad is that the death scenes weren't even good. They weren't even creative in any way. they weren't good. They weren't fun to watch. So it was just like the dumb decisions were being made with no reward. They just died in the most mundane ways ever. Spoiler alert for a death that happens later on in the movie. This dude, the way he dies is an explosion at a construction site that sends a metal pole through the back of his body. Now that could be a cool kill if it actually showed the pole going through him in the moment that he gets hit. But no, it shows him and then the explosion, but it like pans up to where you can't see what's happening, and then it cuts back down and there's a pole through his chest. Like, if I want to see the pole go through his chest, please. For a movie all about death, the scenes where people actually die are insanely underwhelming. It's like the person who thought up the idea and then executed it still eats glue or something. Because after watching it, I feel like I can't even build a Lego set anymore. That's how dumb it is. But anyways, to talk a bit more in detail about the movie, we meet all the characters. We figure out how, unlockable they all are and how much we won't care if they all die. Which, spoiler alert, most of them do die. But, we meet them, we learn their names. I already forgot them, and I just watched the movie about an hour ago. I genuinely can't. Beth, that's the final girl's name. I remember one character's name, and that's it. Actually, since this hate train's already on the tracks, I'm going to keep talking about what I don't like about this movie. It's a horror movie that isn't scary whatsoever. You could go into a haunted house on Halloween at 3 a.m., with all the lights out, completely by yourself, and you wouldn't even have one singular hair stand up on the back of your neck. It's just so not scary. I found myself actually laughing at most parts of this movie. Not because I was enjoying it whatsoever, but because I was making up my own narrative in my head of how this movie should play out, and that I found more enjoyment in that than watching the actual movie. And I'm not talented in writing whatsoever, but my headcanon was far more enjoyable than what I was seeing on my screen. I actually fell asleep during this movie. I dozed off for a second, and I've never fell asleep during a movie ever in the history of me watching movies, because there's always something I can latch onto to somewhat enjoy, whether it be the poorly written characters that are just fun to watch be goofy on screen, or just the horribly written plot that's so bad it's kind of enjoyable and you want to see where it's going to turn up. This had no redeeming qualities whatsoever, at all. Besides a couple of the characters being attractive, I had nothing to look at, nothing to think about, nothing to do. So I dozed off for a couple minutes, and I had to rewind it and watch that part over. And I almost fell asleep again. But I thought that was worth mentioning. It's a historic moment in my history, in my lifetime. This is the first movie I've ever fell asleep to. And a massive pet peeve of this movie is that the characters, every single time they're the one on the receiving end of the phone call, and it's their turn to die, they smash the phone. Yeah, I can understand doing that for the first time or two if you don't know what's going on and you're getting kind of freaked out. But the main character does this till the end of the movie. She knows how it works every single step. You get the phone call, it tells you you're going to die, the date you're going to die, when you're going to die, how you're going to die practically. And she still smashes the phones like that's going to do something. All you're doing is wasting money. That's all you're doing. That's absolutely it. She knows every step of it. A bunch of characters do this. They know how it works, and yet they still smash the phone like that's going to do something. Like that's standing up to the demon. Like you're telling your mom no about doing chores, and you feel like a big boy now. No, you're just stupid. A goldfish who continually rams into the edge of his bowl is smarter than you. It's just so baffling to me how much I don't like this movie. Literally, I can't think of one thing I like. Besides, the cold open character was pretty hot. And as well as there's another girl who I forgot her name, and she's also pretty hot. But that's the only thing I liked about this movie. The cop dude was also kind of handsome, and that's it. That's the only redeeming qualities of this movie, is that some of the cast members were pretty attractive. And even though they were attractive, none of them were good actors at all. It wasn't good acting. And that's so surprising to me too, because this movie had a $20 million budget, which it's not a lot, but it's not nothing. But compared to like the big titles, it's not a lot. But in the box office, this movie made like $45 million. So it doubled the budget, which that's good. It performed quite well in the theaters, which leads me to scratch my head and be like, what did people enjoy enough to where they told their friends about it and then they went and watched it? Like, was there a good marketing strategy that made people want to go watch this? Or was it the poster? what made people think this was going to be a good movie to the fact where it took them to the theater to watch it? Surely, during 2008, there was something more fun to watch, like The Avengers or something. Now that I'm thinking about how much I don't like this movie, there is one part that I did find kind of silly to the point where I somewhat enjoyed it. And it's at the main end of the movie when the final girl, Beth, is in the burnt down hospital, which that's a central plot point, but I'm not here to talk about the plot. No one cares. It burnt down, and apparently the woman that burnt down in it is the key to stopping all this, so they're in there searching for her corpse or something like that. Kind of really forgot. But she goes into this room, she opens the door, and there's this crib. And in the crib is a CGI baby that's holding a phone. And the ringtone that like calls the people, the haunted ringtone, is playing, and the baby's holding the phone, and it turns around and goes... And the girl sees it, she goes, ah! And takes off running like a Scooby-Doo character out the door, like she has to wind up for a minute, and takes off running. It's just so silly, so goofy, so wacky that she's seen that baby in the crib with a flip phone and said, yeah, this is scary. That baby's gonna hurt me. Why not just grab the baby and, like, you know, sling it up against the wall a couple of times? What's the baby gonna do? It's like being scared of Chucky. What's if you just hold him out at arm's length, hold his head? He can't stab you. He might be a haunted doll, but he's still a doll. Like, what's there to be scared of besides a baby using a flip phone? This movie kind of feels like what aliens would make if they were trying to make a horror movie based off what they know about Earthlings. Like, if aliens came in from the Andromeda Galaxy, from like the Zorptopia planet or whatever, and the Zorptopians wanted to make a movie for human consumption that was a horror movie, and all they had to go off of was their loose, weird understanding of humans and how we make movies. That's what I feel like this movie is. Just either that or a bunch of cavemen. They unthawed them from an iceberg, an ice cube, and told them to make a horror movie. So they just banged some sticks on some cameras, recorded some stuff, you know, did some more banging with sticks, and this was the outcome. Honestly, I think it would have been more enjoyable. No, I know it would have been more enjoyable if the cavemen themselves just got on camera and started going and banging the table and stuff, and like banging the phones to smash them so they can't call anymore because they're scared of the technology and they don't know what's going on. That sounds like much more of a good movie than what I watched. I haven't talked about all the deaths in this movie. I just want to talk about them with you so you can understand how bad they are. So the first one was Laura. Was her name Laura? Lana? Anyways, the dude who died from the construction explosion, it was his girlfriend, or on again, off again girlfriend. She was the first one up to bat, the first one that was supposed to get hit by the pitch. So she was the first death. Anyways, she gets the phone call. The main character, Beth, listens to the phone call. The Laura dude or woman also hears the phone call. So they hear this and they're confused because this is the first call. They don't know what's going on yet. And the voicemail is also from the future, so it's understandable that they're both baffled, kind of, you know, hanging their jaws open to the floor, just kind of confused as to what's going on. But then the girl who got the phone call, she starts seeing this weird stuff. Like, she starts seeing the people that look like the person from the movie poster, just like these gray people with like black holes for eyes and weird mouths. And that's where the woman and the baby come in that look like that I mentioned earlier. She sees someone on the bus that goes by that stares at her and smiles creepily. Just some real, you know, scary stuff like that. But instead of being with her friend to, you know, have someone around you when some creepy stuff's going on, she decides she wants to be completely alone. She goes to the library where I guess nobody else on campus is. She's the only one in the library, which is kind of unbelievable on a college campus. But anyways, she leaves when the library closes and no one else is around. Complete ghost town for some reason. And then she starts walking home. And I don't know if she takes this path every day, but she walks conveniently at the place that is the most dangerous place around, the railroad tracks. And she decides she's going to walk over top of the railroad. There's like an overpass over the railroad. So she says, I'm going to walk across this. And that's when she calls her friend, Beth, the main character, the final girl, and tells her she's seen all this weird stuff. She's scared. And then Beth says, hold on, I'll be right there. She tells her where she is. She said, I'm going to be right there. I'll come get you. We'll be together. You don't have to be scared. And then instead of like getting off of the overpass as fast as possible, she decides to just basically pitter-patter, just be in La La Land up there, standing there, watching. She sees a train is coming. So instead of like maybe holding onto the rail for safety or something, she just stands there like a deer in the headlights. And she sees the door swing open on top of the overpass. And yet she's just frozen. She's just not doing anything. And the train is still closing in. So, you know what's about to happen. She's not grabbing the rails. She's feeling a bit wobbly. She falls through the door that conveniently opens somehow. And the train hits her as she's falling. And whoop-de-doo, she dies. And her hand got severed, by the way. They show up, Beth shows up to the crime scene. They pluck the little hard candy out of her mouth. And then her arm is severed, and Beth sees the severed hand dialing another number to call it to be the next victim, which is the dude who got blew up by the construction site. So now the third death in the film is the stereotypical hot girl. She wears like these belly shirts all the time, so you know she's supposed to be the hot one, and she is attractive. So it's her turn to bat. You know, she's the next one up on the chopping block. So she gets the call after they take the batteries out of the phone, proving that it doesn't matter what you do. Once again, smashing phones isn't going to do anything, but yet they do it again. They smash phones. Both of them. The hot girl does it as well. She smashes the phone thinking it's going to do something. Stupid people, man. But anyways, she gets the call. Beth wants her to stay at the house so they can be together and keep her safe. But then the girl leaves. She leaves a little post-it note on the door that says, "I'm going to see my mom and dad." But she doesn't go to see her mom and dad. She goes... Oh, sorry. She goes to see this paranormal TV dude that has like a paranormal show, like Zach Baggins type of dude that came to meet them earlier. So she goes to be on his show because he says he can exorcise the demon or protect her or something like that. And the way that Beth finds this out is that her and this detective, they're on a side plot that goes on the entire movie that's kind of pointless. The only reason he's in the movie is because his sister also died in the same way. But that doesn't really matter. None of that matters. So they see it on the TV, and she rushes over there to get to them. She somehow knows where the place they're filming this is at. So they show up, and right when they show up, she starts seeing these, like, the weird people everywhere, the hot girl does. And then, like, the lights go out, and she starts getting force choked by Darth Vader. And they're recording this the whole time. And the guy, the host of the paranormal TV show, is like, "Are you getting this? Are you getting this? Make sure you get this on film of this woman dying." But they don't. It gets corrupted or whatever, and then he's pissed off that he didn't get the footage. Like, what, you were going to air this woman dying? You weren't going to get sued from the family for airing her final moments? Like, what? I don't know the thought process behind that. That's all stupid. That's all so stupid. But anyways, she dies. She got choked. She got force choked to death. And I think that's all the deaths. That's all I had wrote down. I wrote down a couple notes throughout it. I'm pretty sure that's it. Maybe I'm missing some. I don't know. I don't really care. I don't have internet to look it up because my internet's been out all day, so I watch this movie as my form of entertainment. So, you know, just add one bad thing on top of the other. It's like been a shit squared type of day. Internet's been out. Plus, I had to watch this stinky movie, so been a rough day for me, to say the least. But anyways, last thing to talk about, I guess, is the ending. The ending is horrible. It tries to be like a big M. Night Shyamalan twist ending on top of a twist ending. But it's just not. It just gets really convoluted and confusing. The whole movie's been leading you to believe that this mom, this abusive mom, was the one haunting the phones and causing all this carnage. But as it turns out from a teddy bear, that the surviving girl of the mom of the hospital that burnt down, the girl that was in the family that didn't die, she has this teddy bear that's a nanny cam. And it caught everything that happened that they somehow didn't look into before, but it caught everything on a CD. It recorded it all. And the one that turned out to be the one that was mean and causing all the damage in the family was the other sister, her older sister. She was the one that cut her wrists. She was the one that did all this stuff, and she's the one that haunted the phone because her mom found her cutting her sister's wrist, so she grabbed the girl that was getting cut and locked the other girl in the room for being a bad girl or whatever. So the girl had an asthma attack at that same time because the girl that haunted the phones was asthmatic. She had an asthma episode, and she went to get her inhaler, but it was empty, so she died right there in front of the nanny cam. And then her soul, I guess, at that moment got transferred into the phone, and then she wanted to wreak havoc on everybody. So that's when the cycle started of her killing people. I feel like I'm not explaining this well, but the movie doesn't explain it well either. This is kind of the pacing of the movie. You feel kind of lost, and you feel like you're the dumb one for watching it. And that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm the dumb one explaining it. But just when you thought it was over, after Beth, went past the time she was supposed to die, she survived the ghost phone. She didn't get killed the time she was supposed to. You think it's over now, but oh, no, it's not. The detective finds some more footage. Another twist ending. Oh! he finds another secret out, and this is where he finds out that the girl was evil. This is where the nanny cam footage comes into play. The girl is in her bed, Beth, listening to music conveniently. She can't hear the phone ringing when the detective calls to tell her. And then the girl somehow in her home haunting her. And the detective rushes over and gets there just in the nick of time before the girl gets killed or whatever. And then he comes in, shuts the door, and then they hear a knocking on the door after he comes in and shuts the door. And they're like, oh, who's that? So the detective goes over to the door, looks through the peephole, and right when he goes to look, Beth's about to say, no, don't! And then he gets stabbed through the door. And then the door opens, the ghost girl's there, she's like, oh, I'm gonna kill you. And then she, like, does a nuclear explosion, like Soldier Boy from The Boys. She just explodes the whole house practically, all the windows bust, and it's like a bomb just got set off outside. Like, how much power does this girl ghost have? Like, she can haunt phones. She can force people to die when she wants them to die just from making them have a phone call. And now she can explode buildings? Like, what is she? Is she a superhero? A super villain? Like, use your power for something else. World domination or something. You know, make global warming happen faster. Don't just pettily haunt people for no reason. You know, do something at least cool. But anyways, the detective dies. The candy falls out of his mouth. And then the girl, Beth, doesn't die because she's the final girl. She can't die. She has plot armor. And yeah, that's pretty much it. The mom comes in somehow also and, like, grabs the girl and then, like, disintegrates her back into the phone. And she's gone now. The mom's saved. The ghost of the dead mom saved the girl from her daughter, her evil daughter that was in the phones. This whole movie is just so stupid. I'm realizing how absolutely dumb this is. This is so hard to explain, man. I feel so dumb. Oh my god. Why am I making this video? I can't. This is such a bad movie. I watch a lot of bad movies that are rated like 5 out of 10 on IMDb, and I enjoy them. Also, by the way, don't base what you're going to watch off of IMDb ratings. That's pointless. IMDb is not very trustworthy with ratings. They're somewhat... You could loosely base it on that, but just watch it for yourself and make your own opinions. But this... Don't watch it and make your own opinion. This movie is not worth it. It's really not. Just, you know, save your time. You could find an hour and a half of your time or however, hour and 50 minutes or something doing something else. Hey, finger your butthole for that long, for all I care. Just don't watch this movie. But yeah, I don't feel like doing an outro, so just watch me turn the camera off.